You probably think you know the worst execution in history, but the truth gets uglier the deeper you go. Some victims were boiled for hours, some were dragged under ships, and some were forced to die in front of cheering crowds as part of a show. The most disturbing part is not just the pain. It is the fact that powerful empires used these deaths as messages. So what was the darkest method of all? Let's start with number 10. Flying alive. You hear that name and think somebody got it wrong. The truth is worse, and the mistake hides the real horror. People say flying alive, but the real historical term is flaying alive. That one word changes the whole picture. This was a real punishment, and it appears in official Assyrian art. A British museum relief dated 700 to 692 BCE shows prisoners from Lachish, and the museum description says officials held responsible for rebellion were flayed alive. Another Assyrian relief shows prisoners being flayed in front of ambassadors. Ask yourself one question: why do that in front of ambassadors unless fear is the whole point? That detail hits hard because this punishment was not hidden away. It was carved into royal stone and shown as policy. Britannica places flaying among the most cruel methods used from ancient times into later centuries. The British Museum reliefs add the part people miss. These scenes sit beside marching prisoners, battle images, vines, and olive trees. So the empire put farming, war, and human skinning into one public message. That is a cold way to rule. And the target mattered too. These scenes connect to rebellion, which means this was aimed at officials and local elites as well, not just random captives. A ruler could terrify a province by destroying a few bodies in public. One palace wall could teach that lesson to thousands of later viewers. One body suffers, and a whole population learns what power can do. That is the real brutality here. The pain hit one person, but the warning spread far beyond that body. Then history takes the body off the wall, lifts it higher, and turns death into a long public event. Here comes number 9. Crucifixion. This one kept people alive for a reason. The point was pain, shame, and a crowd that could not look away. Your heading says crucifixion, but the method is crucifixion, one of the most notorious public executions in history. Britannica dates its major use from about the 6th century BCE to the 4th century CE among Persians, Seleucids, Carthaginians, and Romans. After scourging, the condemned usually carried the crossbeam. Then executioners fixed him to a cross about 9 to 12 feet above the ground. Hands or wrists could be tied or nailed. Feet could be bound or nailed. Even that height had a purpose: keep the body visible. Then the scale gets hard to ignore. In 519 BCE, Darius I crucified 3,000 opponents in Babylon. In 88 BCE, Alexander Jannaeus crucified 800 Pharisaic opponents. After Spartacus fell in 71 BCE, Rome crucified 6,000 prisoners along the Appian Way. That was more than punishment. That turned a road into a warning people could read mile after mile. The body also became its own torture machine. Britannica says crucifixion caused extreme pain while the victim struggled with circulation problems, organ stress, and the mechanics of breathing. A small ledge could be added to support part of the body. That sounds kinder for 1 second, then the real point shows up. More support could mean more suffering because it could keep the victim alive longer. If executioners wanted speed, they could break the legs and remove the last way to push up for breath. Constantine abolished crucifixion in the early 4th century CE, yet empires kept it for about 8 centuries because it punished the body, shamed the victim, and warned the crowd all at once. Then the wood disappears and the fire goes under a cauldron. If this story is pulling you in, back this video right now. Hit subscribe, drop a like, and stay with us because the next reveal gets even more disturbing. Let's move to number 8. Boiling in oil. A blade ends things fast. This one cooks at the end in front of everybody. Boiling in oil sounds unreal until the records start piling up. Britannica defines boiling as execution in heated liquid such as water, oil, molten lead, wax, tallow, or wine. That list already tells you a lot. This method could change with whatever the state had ready. A person could be dropped into liquid already boiling, or placed in cool liquid and heated slowly while the crowd watched every stage. Britannica says that under Henry VIII, some victims were boiled for up to 2 hours before death. 2 hours under heat is hard to process. The records get even darker. Britannica says that during Nero's reign, thousands of Christians were boiled in oil. In England, a poisoner was reportedly lowered on a chain into boiling water at Smithfield in 1522. Then the state wrote the method into law. In 1531, an act under Henry VIII made poisoning a form of petty treason punishable by boiling to death. The statute named Richard Roose, a cook whose poisoned porridge sickened 17 people and killed a man and a woman. He was publicly boiled at Smithfield. That message was brutal and direct, and it did not stop with one case. Britannica notes earlier mentions for coining offenses, then reports more cases after Roose, including a maidservant boiled at King's Lynn and Margaret Davy boiled at Smithfield in 1542 for poisoning her employer. Once a government writes the cauldron into law, cruelty starts reading like office work. Some offenders were lowered gradually on chains, which meant the crowd could watch the punishment in stages. First, the steam rose. Then the screams came. Then the body failed piece by piece. After that, the rope starts to seem almost simple. Next one is number 7, hanging. This one seems plain at first. That simple design is exactly why it spread so far. Hanging lasted because it was cheap, direct, and easy to build almost anywhere. Britannica defines it as death by strangling or by breaking the neck with a suspended noose. The older form killed by asphyxiation. Later methods used a trapdoor, so the body dropped several feet, and that sharp jerk could break the cervical vertebrae and cause rapid loss of consciousness. Even the knot mattered. Britannica notes that the hangman's knot, or a metal eyelet, helped snap the head sharply backward. So even a rope came with method, adjustment, and design. Its history runs for a very long time. Hanging appears under ancient Roman law, passed through Germanic practice, and by the 12th century, it had become the prescribed punishment for homicide in England. Then it spread through the British Empire and into legal systems shaped by Anglo-American law. That reach matters. The method asked for very little: rope, wood, and a public willing to treat death as justice. Then the crowd enters the picture. Public hangings remained legal in England until 1868, and Britannica says the 1760 drop was introduced there long before public spectacle ended. Think about that gap. Authorities kept refining the method while crowds still came out to watch. The machinery changed, but the appetite stayed. Britannica also says hanging remained the standard form of execution in Great Britain until capital punishment was abolished there in 1965. That pushes this method much closer to the modern world than many people expect. A rope carried centuries of law, routine, and public fear. Then the next method takes one executioner out of the center and hands the killing to the crowd. Let's move to number 6, stoning. This is where a crowd stops watching and starts participating. That change makes the whole thing darker. Stoning stands apart because there is no single executioner carrying the whole act. Britannica notes that Saint Stephen, executed in 36 CE outside Jerusalem, became the first Christian martyr to die by stoning. That date matters because it shows how early and how publicly this punishment could work. Someone could be taken outside the city, surrounded by people, and killed in full view. A sword points to one killer. A stoning spreads the violence across many hands. The legal procedure preserved in the Jewish Encyclopedia is harsher than the common picture. The condemned was placed on a platform twice his height. One witness pushed him down. If the fall failed to kill him, a second witness threw a heavy stone at his chest. If life remained after that, the bystanders kept throwing stones until death. That is not random chaos. It is a sequence: fall, chest strike, then crowd finish. Violence was turned into a step-by-step process. There is another detail that changes how you see it. As the convict moved toward execution, a herald went ahead announcing the name, crime, time, place, and witnesses, while asking whether anyone had evidence in the convict's favor. The judges stayed in session during the procession. The condemned could even stop the march more than once if new evidence or mitigating facts appeared. He was also given wine and olibanum to dull awareness before death. That small act says a lot. The system understood exactly how terrible the ending would be. Then the setting changes. The crowd becomes a ship's crew, and the sea takes over the job of tearing flesh. Here comes number 5. Keel hauling. Now the weapon is not a blade or a rope. It is the ship itself, and the sea does the rest. Keel hauling sounds invented until the sources place it inside real naval discipline. Britannica says it appeared in the Dutch Navy in the late 16th century. Royal Museum's Greenwich describes sailors tied to a rope, swung overboard, and dragged around the underside of the ship. That means the punishment turned the vessel into the tool of pain. The keel, hull, barnacles, water pressure, panic, and lack of air all became part of the sentence. One man goes under, and the whole ship starts attacking him. Britannica gives the damage clearly. Many men died from drowning or internal injuries, and those who survived could be cut badly by barnacles on the hull. That detail matters because survival could become a second punishment. A sailor might live, but the scars could stay for life. In theory, keel hauling was not always meant to be fatal. In practice, the sea had no interest in theory. One bad drag under the hull, one impact with timber, one mouthful of seawater, and punishment turns into execution. Royal Museum's Greenwich adds the social part that makes it even harder to shake. The whole crew often had to watch harsh punishments, including flogging, ducking, and keel hauling. So one body suffered while dozens of shipmates learned the lesson. On a warship, nobody could escape that message because the audience slept in the same floating world where the punishment had just happened. On land, a person might still think about running. At sea, the water becomes a wall, witness, and grave at the same time. Then Rome takes public punishment and turns it into a full show. Let's move to number 4. Forced arena combat. Rome did not hide punishment behind doors. Rome built an audience around it. Britannica says it directly. In ancient Rome, condemned offenders could be executed by forced gladiatorial combat. Another Britannica entry on Venationes says the men in these spectacles were captives, condemned criminals, or professional animal hunters, and that the shows began in the 2nd century BCE. That date matters because it places this violence deep inside Roman public life early on. The arena could work as court, circus, and killing ground in one place. That alone tells you what kind of society this had become. Then the scale gets wild. Britannica says the popularity of Venationes drove the search for lions, bears, bulls, hippopotamuses, panthers, and crocodiles across the known world. On one occasion, as many as 11,000 animals were exhibited and killed. Stop at that number for a second. That is transport, cages, handlers, money, planning, and blood all working together. Julius Caesar built the first wooden amphitheater for this kind of spectacle, which shows how much elite Rome was willing to invest in public killing. The human side gets uglier when performance enters the story. In the Cambridge article, Fatal Charades, Kathleen Coleman quotes Tertullian describing a person burned to death in the role of Hercules, and another castrated as Attis. She explains that criminals were punished in formal public displays involving role play in a dramatic setting, usually ending in death. So some condemned people did not just die in the arena. They died inside a script. Rome did not stop at killing. Rome staged killing, themed killing, and packaged it as entertainment for a crowd trained to expect surprise. Then one famous death takes fire, memory, and legend and ties them together. Next one is number 3, gridiron execution. This one comes with a twist. The story is famous, but the record points in another direction. The famous gridiron death belongs to St. Lawrence, executed in 258 CE during the persecution under Emperor Valerian. Britannica makes an important correction. Lawrence was probably beheaded. But the same entry says Ambrose of Milan and Prudentius recorded that he was roasted to death on a gridiron, and later tradition remembered that version so strongly that he is usually shown holding a gridiron in art. That split matters. The most famous image may not match the most likely fact, yet the image refused to go away. You can see why. A human body overheat on an iron grate is unforgettable. Britannica even preserves the famous line attributed to Lawrence, where he tells his torturers to turn him over. That line may belong more to tradition than to strict fact, but it shows what later Christians wanted this death to mean. Pain and defiance in the same moment. Even the symbol stuck. Mention Lawrence, and the gridiron comes with him. Britannica adds another detail that deepens the story. Lawrence served among the 7 deacons of the Roman Church under Pope Sixtus II, whose martyrdom came a few days earlier. After Lawrence's death, many conversions reportedly followed in Rome, including several senators who witnessed the execution. Even if some of those reports grew in retelling, the memory held for a reason. People in late antiquity found this kind of cruelty believable under state power. So yes, the record leans toward beheading. Still, the gridiron survived because the image burned into memory harder than paperwork ever could. Then the fire drops away, and the next method closes in right at the throat. Let's move to number 2, strangulation. There is no giant crowd needed here. This one works up close, and that closeness is the whole horror. Strangulation can seem plain beside crosses, arenas, and boiling cauldrons, yet history kept returning to it because it was direct and simple. The Jewish Encyclopedia says rabbinic law treated strangulation as one of the 4 deaths, and regarded it as the mildest because it left no outward marks. That phrase is chilling. No outward marks. The surface stays cleaner, but the panic inside the body stays the same. A person still fights for air. The law just cared about what could be seen afterward. The same source explains the method with harsh precision. A stout cord wrapped in soft cloth went around the convict's neck, and executioners pulled in opposite directions until breath left the body. Soft cloth sounds gentle for 1 second, then the real reason shows up. The cloth reduced visible damage while the airway closed. That tells you a lot about how procedure can tidy the surface of horror without changing the horror itself. The victim still struggles. The law just wanted the neck to appear less damaged. Then Europe turned the idea into hardware. Britannica's entry on the garrote describes an iron collar attached to a post, tightened by a screw until asphyxiation occurred. Another form used a wire with wooden handles. So strangulation could be done by hands, by cord, or by device. Once the screw enters the picture, execution starts reading like office work. Turn, tighten, wait. That is why strangulation belongs here. Its brutality does not depend on a huge audience. It comes from close range, from the narrowing airway, and from the fact that the people carrying it out are near enough to hear every broken breath. Then archaeology gives us iron proof that old nails really did go through living bones. And the last is number 1, nailed execution. For a long time this lived in texts and images. Then one skeleton made the whole thing solid. A Roman cemetery in Fenstanton, Cambridgeshire, gave historians a piece of hard evidence that changed the picture. The University of Cambridge reports that during a 2017 excavation of 5 small Roman cemeteries containing 40 adults and 5 children, archaeologists found one male skeleton with a 5-centimeter nail driven horizontally through the right heel bone. Radiocarbon dating places his death between AD 130 and AD 360. That one detail strips away distance very fast. This is no painting, no sermon, no later legend. It is iron through bone. Cambridge adds more, and every detail sharpens the scene. The man, labeled Skeleton 4926, was about 25 to 35 years old and stood around 5 foot 7 inches, average height for the time. He was buried with 12 iron nails around him and beside a timber structure that may have acted as a bier after removal from the cross. Many of the other remains from the site showed poor health, including dental disease, malaria, fractures, and injuries. So this man likely came from a hard life before the execution even started. A Cambridge follow-up from Lucy Cavendish says this find is the only known example from the British Isles, and the fourth worldwide, as well as the best preserved, according to the team. Then, one more detail makes it even harsher. A smaller indentation beside the main hole may suggest a first attempt failed before the nail finally went through. Sit with that for a second. One strike misses. The executioner adjusts, then the iron goes in again. That one heel bone